Uh, Hi, if you're working with AI applications, then you know that AI applications tend to use all kinds of data, structured, unstructured, semi-structured. Structured data is one that is organized into maybe rows and columns like SQLDB or Postgres, example like Postgres, MySQL, and other databases, Oracle DB, And then we have like unstructured data or semi-structured. Semi-structured can be like NoSQLs, where data can be structured in a way, but again, they can still store some bit of unstructured data. And then we have unstructured data. For example, we have flat files, we have videos, we have images, we have pictures. Also, we have what we call audio files. This data is unstructured, which means they don't conform to any particular format or structure. And for AI applications, they tend to use or learn a lot from unstructured data, which includes information that is grabbed from the internet, an audio file like what I'm doing now, maybe flat files like Excels, PPTs, Word documents, and all that. Now, the databases that have been in place, like MySQLDB and other DBs like the NoSQL, they tend not to perform well with unstructured data. And so there are special databases called vector DBs. An example being Milvus, Qdrant, ChromaDB. We have others, but the most popular ones are Milvus DB, ChromaDB. Also, we have which one again? Quadrant or Quadrant. Now, in this series, I'm going to take you through how to use Milvus database. And first things first, we are going to see how to install Milvus. There are three major ways of installing Milvus database. One, you can use it for your development or just a mini DB like SQLite. Now, this is just a Python package you install from npm or Python, py.py, that is the package directory for Python. So just install this as a package, and then you can start writing it from the word go, and all the files will be stored as a file on your code base. Another way is the standalone procedure or method, where you basically building a prototype, and so you want a database that is simple to set up, does not scale, or you're still not worried about scale or anything, so you tend to use a standalone DB. And in this case, you can use Docker Compose or Docker. But we prefer Docker Compose because with Docker Compose, you're going to organize all the services that Milvus needs, like the mini IO and the etc that tend to coordinate how data is stored and retrieved in the Milvus database. That is the Docker Compose way. And the third way is the Minikube way, where we're going to use Kubernetes to ensure that we can deploy database for Milvus or Milvus DB in a scalable manner so that we can support high volume, high traffic, and just ensure that our app is always available and can support millions to billions of vectors. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to use Docker Compose to set up a standalone Milvus database instance, and then we are going to check to ensure that it is up and running. And then after that, we are going to start learning how to use Milvus DB, especially if you are a person who is building applications, because with the applications, you always need to use vector DB, unless otherwise. So stay with me in this video as we take you through the series of Milvus database. Now to install Milvus Standalone using Docker Compose, we're going to do two things. One, you need a virtual machine or a VM, could be Linux or Windows, but I prefer Linux. Now I have a Linux machine on Azure already provisioned. What I'm going to do is to SSH into my Linux virtual machine. So how to do that, I'll come here and then I'll open a new terminal window, and then I have my command already in place here. So I'll just come here and copy this and SSH. Actually, I need to first cd into where that private key is. That is in the desktop, cd desktop ls, and then cd ai ls, and then we have Milvus, cd Milvus. Let's see what we have inside here, ls, exactly. So right here, I'm going to copy this and paste here and pasting this command. This command is simple. Command to SSH it to my virtual machine using a private key instead of password. And there is my username, and this is the public IP address of that virtual machine. Perfect. Now we are inside here, ls. Perfect. So what I want to do, the next thing you want to do is to create a directory where you're going to install your Milvus database. So in this case, I want to store it somewhere. I'll do cd into opt. Let me zoom in actually so that you can see everything clearly. I'll zoom in again. Again, that should work. So cd opt. Let's see what we have. ls. And then I'm going to create a new directory. Let's call it make directory. Let's call it Milvus Standalone. I need to have sudo rights, so I'll do sudo and then cd into Milvus Standalone. Perfect. So inside here, what do we have? ls la. We have nothing. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a Docker Compose file inside here, and that Compose file, where you get it is here. Milvus gives a Docker Compose file that you can use, and it is on their GitHub repository. So highlight this and then go to your Brave browser and then download this file. Press enter and then download this file here. You can see we're having Milvus Compose. I'm going to store it in desktop here, and then choose AI. Then inside Milvus here, store that Compose file. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to open its contents, and then I'm going to copy its contents. Control A, Control C, and then coming back to my VM here, I'm going to use nano to create that file. So I'm going to do sudo nano, and then you should name it docker compose.yml. Docker compose.yml. And then inside here, just paste the contents of that compose file that we downloaded, and let's see what we have. So inside here, what we have is the version of this Docker Compose, and then the services that are running in this compose file. Now we have the etcd. This is responsible for routing and just ensuring or just coordinating how data is stored. And then we have minio, which is also a component that is needed by Milvus to work perfectly. And then finally, we have the Milvus itself, that is standalone. And you can see we have everything like the container name, the image, and then we have security. Then we have what again? We have the environment variables that are referring to the previous services like the etcd and minio. And then we have the volumes. So basically data will be persisted here. And then the health check command right there. So I'm going to do Control auto write it, auto persist it, and then Control X to exit. Once you are done this, the next thing is to do Docker Compose app. So what we're going to do is Docker Compose app D. I think we should do sudo. Perfect. We need to do sudo because of the rights. Now we have other containers running, and then this is just like containers which are created earlier, and I'm going to show you how they will look. So if you do sudo docker ps, what do we have? And you see 7 hours ago I tried to bring up or install Milvus database, and this is what we're going to get. We're going to get Milvus standalone running here, or the tiny Milvus. We're going to get Milvus DB itself, then etcd, and the minio. So this alone, you have Milvus standalone already running, and its installation is straightforward, just using Docker Compose app, and you're up and running with Milvus DB, ready to start building your applications that need vector databases. Now the next thing is to confirm if your data is up and ready to receive requests. How do we do that? The last command that we have here is this call command here. This will tell us if we get some response of data 0, it's right, so our Milvus DB is up and running. Perfect. So when you see code 0 and data is empty, that is perfect. It means we have Milvus DB up and running and ready to start receiving requests. So God's signing out. See you in the next video. We are going to write our first Milvus application and connect to it to store data. Now, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. See you in another video. Osaka Codes signing out.